This is BBC One. Now later than billed and extended BBC News with Hugh Edwards.
Tonight, the latest on the terror attack at London Bridge, where 7 people were killed last night and dozens injured.
Please, keep moving!
Keep moving!
It happened in an area packed with thousands of people at bars and restaurants in nearby Borough Market. A white van had been driven into pedestrians before 3 men jumped out armed with knives, stabbing people in their path.
When this is for Allah, and they run up, they stabbed this girl, I don't know how many times, 10 times, maybe 15 times, and she was going, help me, and I could not do nothing.
There was widespread panic as police ordered people to take cover as the attackers were still at large. Others fled the area as the sound of loud gunfire filled the air during the rapid response by police officers. Within 8 minutes of the initial alert, the 3 attackers, all wearing fake suicide vests, had been shot dead by armed police. Emergency services say that 48 were injured, some of them critically, as friends and families have spoken of those affected.
He just stepped outside the bar for a second, and a man ran up to him and said, "This is for my family, this is for Islam," and stuck a knife straight in him.
In Downing Street, the Prime Minister condemned what she called the evil ideology of Islamist extremism and called for a new approach.
There is, to be frank, far too much tolerance of extremism in our country. So we need to become far more robust in identifying it and stamping it out across the public sector and across society.
Our priority must be public safety, and I will take whatever action is necessary and effective to protect the security of our people and our country.
During the day in Barking in East London, several homes were raided and 12 arrests were made. This is the scene tonight, close to London Bridge and Borough Market. We'll have the latest details, the latest analysis and reaction here in Britain and around the world. Good evening from central London. We're in the area just south of London Bridge and Borough Market. This is where, this time last night, 7 people were killed, dozens were injured in a terrorist attack carried out by 3 men who were shot dead by police within minutes of that attack taking place. It was Britain's 2nd major terrorist incident in the space of just 12 days. Now, it began just after 10 o'clock last night when a rented van was used to knock down pedestrians on London Bridge. 3 men wearing fake suicide vests then left the vehicle and began stabbing people in pubs and bars in nearby Borough Market. But within just 8 minutes, the 3 men had been confronted and shot dead by police. A member of the public was also injured in the exchanges. Now, during the day, 12 people were arrested in Barking in East London following a series of raids there. And the Prime Minister, speaking in Downing Street, called for a new approach to combat what she called the single evil ideology of Islamist extremism. Well, in this extended programme tonight, we'll have full details, we'll have reaction, we'll have analysis for you. And we're going to start with our home editor, Mark Easton, whose report does include some distressing images.
And a country cried, "Please, not again," as the first news reports began to break.
We're hearing tonight that the British Armed Police have attended an incident at London Bridge. We don't know any more than that at this stage.
At just after 10 last night, 3 men in a white van drove at speed across London Bridge, determined to kill the spirit of the capital.
Oh my God.
There was a white van that came speeding over probably about 50 miles an hour. It turned into the pavement, hit about 3 people in front of me.
Oh my God! Oh,
Close the door, close the door.
Oh my God! No.
There was people just lying everywhere on the bridge, just people trying to help each other out, people bleeding, there was just blood everywhere.
Having deliberately mown down pedestrians, the 3 men got out of the van, knives in their hands, murder on their minds.
They were running up going, this is for Allah. When they first see him, they went, this is for Allah. They ran up and started stabbing this girl, 3 of them. I was defenceless, I couldn't do nothing, mate. And then they attacked her, and then they stabbed another guy, I think, if I remember right, I was a bit shocked. They started running up the road, I started going, everybody run, the terrorists, run, they're stabbing everyone.
It was just stab this person. If they got up, stab them again, move on to the next person. And I was just staring at them from the balcony where I was looking at as they were making their way down to the bar. And just thinking, how could someone do such a thing?
Armed police were on the scene within minutes as the men, seen here, walked calmly towards the packed bars and restaurants of Borough Market.
They were running in all the pubs, all the bars, and they were stabbing everyone. I was going to people, run. I was throwing bottles at them, pint glasses.
People were throwing chairs as well, and it seemed, it seemed like chairs and glasses were just going in both directions.
These 4 friends were settling down for a meal in a Mexican restaurant when the 3 knife men arrived.
Three men come in, and one pulled out a knife and stabbed one of the girls who was sitting closest to the door, and I think she was only 17.
I kind of got a glimpse of a guy with a knife, and then before I knew it, the doors were shut, and then we were at the back of the restaurant.
So you saw him?
Briefly, like a glimpse.
People were very, very scared. They began to run and knock tables over to try and get out the way. And then very, very quickly, as we said, the men in the restaurant put the shutters down.
In the early hours of this morning, Claudia and Liam, given refuge in a stranger's flat, told me what they saw from their apartment just above a pub the attackers had targeted on their killing spree.
When we were looking out the window, people were running everywhere. You heard a man on the phone saying there's been a stabbing, which...
And it was when I saw lots of people running down into the underground that I thought it seemed a lot more serious, because it was mass panic. It wasn't just at that point, it wasn't just a fight, it was something serious. One young guy seemed to come out of the pub and he was knocking on the window of the ambulance service saying, he was in a panic saying, you have to help my friend, he's been stabbed, and he's in the pub.
And he's really bleeding.
Whether or not he got stabbed in the pub or outside the pub, I don't know, but he said, my friend's been stabbed, he's in the pub. And there was another guy who was probably in his 40s, standing on the other side of the ambulance, knocking on the other window, saying, I've been stabbed, and he was covered in blood. And he said, I've been stabbed 5 times, you have to help me. But he seemed really calm. He must have been in shock, because he seemed very calm.
And he had his shirt open, and all of this side was just pure blood, and then it was all around his neck, and he was just, And
he was just knocking on the window, and he said, you have to help me.
At this time, police cars were still heading up to London Bridge, apparently unaware of where the attackers were.
This one guy walked out in the road, managed to grab the attention of one of the police cars and basically forced them down that road, saying, look, you have to go down Stony Street, you have to go down there. He's down there. And so this one police 4x4 screeched down Stony Street, and then easily within like 5 seconds there were 6 gunshots, or what to us sounded like 6 clear gunshots.
6 rounds, 2 attackers dead, their fake suicide belts still round their waists. Within 8 minutes of the first call to police, the 3rd knife man had also been shot dead. 50 rounds fired altogether, one member of the public suffering a gunshot wound.
It seemed like a big attack was happening, so we wanted to keep the door locked. So I was just having it was terrifying. I was having a mental battle between either the idea of an explosion coming up through the floor or us being out on the street. Which one do we do? Which one do we do? So I shouted down and said, you know, we're still up here, what should we do? And then one of the police officers said, get out, you have to get out of the building now.
It was an attack not just on individuals, but on our way of life. The killers targeted people having fun, enjoying the freedoms of a diverse and liberal city. With daybreak, tales of bravery and heroism emerged from the horrors of the previous night.
I heard truly remarkable stories of extraordinarily brave actions by officers on and off duty who were first on the scene. I also heard of colleagues from other emergency services and members of the public who ran towards the danger as this incident unfolded. Many, many people risked their own safety to help others and to treat those seriously injured, and indeed to confront the suspects involved.
The Prime Minister addressed the nation from Downing Street, giving thanks to those public servants who'd put their lives on the line to protect us all.
On behalf of the people of London and on behalf of the whole country, I want to thank and pay tribute to the professionalism and bravery of the police and the emergency services, and the courage of members of the public who defended themselves and others from the attackers. And our thoughts and prayers are with the victims and with their friends, families and loved ones.
But Mrs May was not just reflecting a nation's shock. She promised the outrage would be met by a response.
It is time to say enough is enough. Everybody needs to go about their lives as they normally would. Our society should continue to function in accordance with our values. But when it comes to taking on extremism and terrorism, things need to change.
London is still trying to come to terms with the awful events, to understand what happened.
This was an appalling act of terror where innocent Londoners and visitors were enjoying a night out in London Bridge and Borough Market and were deliberately targeted by these cowardly terrorists.
Barricaded in bars and restaurants for 2 hours or more, police finally let people leave for home in the early hours, hands on their heads, just in case an attacker was still among them.
The armed police came in and that was actually really scary. I don't know what I was expecting when they opened the door, but they were shouting to like put our hands on our head and like leave and get out and keep our hands like up like on our heads or like where visible.
I just want people to know that this is not what London's like. We're a strong, very welcoming, caring city, and this is a terrible thing to happen, but it won't stop us from living our lives, really.
London Bridge is falling down, the song goes, but London appears determined to stand up to those who would divide it. Mark Easton, BBC News, London Bridge.
Well, one of those who witnessed the violent and distressing scenes last night on